This one has been on my table for quite a while, and that is because I didn't know how to actually finish this. Um, it is going to be my top five Japanese vehicles, and it's going to be top five because there just isn't 10 worth taking. I'm sorry. I did try to make another top 10, but it's just not there. Um, as per usual, the caveats are this is purely seen from a competitive standpoint. It's points for value. It is what I'm actually seeing on the tables, and what I'm actually seeing on tables for Japanese players is basically not a lot of vehicles. And therefore, it's only a top five. Now, the first one, can you guess it? It's the Horo. The Horo assault gun. It's 7 plus. It's open topped. It's fairly small. It's not that tall, actually, the model itself, and it's 155 points. So that seems very unremarkable. But it is a heavy howitzer. Now, the point with this is that you can make army builds where you have multiple howitzers and mortars in your army build. So it's really good for building a gunline army that can hide behind a screen of very, very tough fanatic infantry. So in that respect, the Horo is absolutely the vehicle that I've seen most often used by Japanese armies. Although, to be fair, maybe the last half year, maybe the last year, I've seen less of them. Um, Maybe the meta is shifting slightly away from the Horo, but it is still my go-to vehicle if I'm looking at Japanese. It's the Horo. It's just such a useful tool. So that is it. And you can't even get away with buying it inexperienced and saving those points, not 155 then, because it's mainly just going to shoot indirectly anyway. So, and it absolutely deletes infantry when and if it hits. So that is my number one pick, the Horo. It does look quite terrible, doesn't it? It's not a nice looking tank. Definitely not a tiger here. Now, number two is the Kurogane. Now, the Kurogane, I'm seeing that in almost every single Japanese list, and that is why it's my number two pick. So why is it there? It's soft-skinned, it's small, it has a four-man transport capacity, not the three-man of the Jeep. So one extra man, slightly a bit of racist, alluding to the fact that Japanese people are smaller than Europeans. Um, but it's just really useful. Um, you can stick your lieutenant and a suicide anti-tanker and a flamer team in one of these. That is just really, really useful. So as a transport capacity that doesn't cost that much more than a Jeep, it's really, really good. Um, so I'm seeing loads of Kuroganes in most games, and I think it's 23 points for an inexperienced one. That's pretty okay. Um, so go and get yourself a Kurogane if you're playing Japanese. You will not regret it. Number three, and this is amazing that it's only at number three, is the Dakka Stuart. Now, the Dakka Stuart is, of course, it's 8 plus, it's vulnerable, it has Recce for some reason, which I don't understand because the Stuarts that the Japanese captured were mainly captured from British people, from the British Army, and they did not have Recce on their Stuarts. They can't get Recce on their Stuarts. Brr. So that makes no sense. But anyways, it's 140 points if you're buying it regular with Recce, which you should, I think. It has 18 mmg shots and a light anti-tank gun. It is by far the most deadly tank of the game. So why is it only my number three pick? Well, because it's not really available. In most Japanese lists, you can't actually take a Dakka Stuart. There is like one theater platoon where you can take him, And maybe if your event allows it, you can take it in a generic reinforced platoon. But in most Japanese lists, you're not actually allowed to take the Stuart. So you can't. And that is why it drops down to the third place. If you can, if you could take the Stuart, then in every single Japanese list, yes, take it. But since you can't really, it's not that useful, is it? And that is why it's my number three. Because those of you who viewed my other top tens, you know that this is pretty much what I regard as being the best tank of the game, right? My number four is the Chiha. Now, the Chiha is an 8 plus tank. It's tracked, it's got closed top, of course. So it's a tank. It's a box standard tank. It doesn't look very good. It's not a nice looking tank. It has that weird feature of a machine gun at the back of the turret. So the turret is going to have to turn around, and you can still only fire like either the machine gun or the main gun. So it's just a weird configuration, right? It should be just a coaxial machine gun, but it's not. It has a hull-mounted machine gun as well, but its main armament is a light howitzer. For 135 points, you get a closed-top armored light howitzer. That's not that bad, actually. Yes, the Horo's heavy howitzer is way more deadly, but the light howitzer is not that bad at all. And shooting HE will pin every tank that you're shooting at. And if you're shooting at infantry, they will go down or they will be shot with a light howitzer, and that will still hurt. So the Chiha is a really useful tank, and it's reasonably priced as well. I think you should look a little bit more at that tank. And the final vehicle is the very unknown SS Key. It's a work vehicle. Basically it's just it's a multi-tool for engineers. It is 7 plus. It's tracked. It is fairly low, but it's rather large in its footprint. It's 115 points if you're buying it as a bow, SS Key bow, which I think you should, because that will mean that you have 360 flamethrowers. It's got multiple flamethrowers, so each each flank and front and rear has one flamethrower, and you can only fire one of them. But if you run out, you've always got the others. So it's really useful, and it's protected against running out. And if you're buying it bow, you have 360 flamethrowers, so you can shoot all around the vehicle. It's only an infantry flamethrower though, so it's not a vehicle one. So it's only got 6 inches of range, but that is still pretty deadly if you can get it to go up to the enemy. It has an MMG as well, and the final thing that it does have is it's got bridging equipment. Highly situational, but very fun when you do. You can basically ford any impassable piece of terrain um, or rough ground by running this over and just laying out the bridge, going down, and then you have open road. Um, so I've never actually heard of this being done, but it could be done, and you can do some weird shenanigans. I know of one situation where one of my WTC players, Mark, he wanted to do that because he had a unit behind the SS key, and he wanted to charge something in front of it. So, and the SS key was down, so the bridging equipment was out, so he could actually run across the tank, which was weird, but yeah. But that is my fifth choice. The rest of the vehicles for the Japanese are basically not worth it. Yeah, they've got a truck, but why would you put your Japanese fanatics in a truck? You want to spend every point you got on infantry bodies, not on trucks. So that is my top five for the Japanese. Very short one. I hope you enjoyed. Cheers.